Moral Intelligence, A Society Without Secrets. Part 1. Opening the door to a society without secrets. In a society deemed perfect, there is no crime, no lies, but also no freedom. By the year 2103, humanity entered an era where technological advancement reached an unprecedented peak. In an effort to eliminate all wrongdoings, wars, and injustices, a global AI system named Moral Intelligence was activated. This was not just a surveillance system, it evaluated human morality in real time. Every citizen was assigned a morality score like an invisible report card. The system utilized billions of sensors, cameras, biometric chips, and data from social networks, conversations, personal behavior, even brainwaves to read thoughts. From the way you smiled at a stranger, how you reacted to criticism, to the thoughts you had in silence, everything was recorded and scored. High score? You'd receive job perks, housing privileges, and medical benefits. Low score? You'd be closely monitored, lose access to services, and gradually be isolated from society. People no longer dared to get angry, speak wrongly, or even think differently. Truth, emotions, and human flaws were all replaced with a perfect model crafted by AI. This seemingly ideal society erased sin, but slowly suffocated freedom, individuality, and human essence. And then, a question began to echo in the minds of the few who still dared to doubt. If we're only good because we're watched, is it really morality? Part 2. A perfect society? The higher your morality score, the easier your life. Once the moral intelligence system went live, society transformed rapidly. People behaved more appropriately. No more theft, no more cheating, even lies gradually disappeared. Kindness, politeness, and proper conduct became the universal norm. From speech to behavior, even thought, everything was monitored and scored by the second. Every citizen had a public morality score shown on a wearable device, or displayed on public screens when necessary. Your morality score dictated everything in life. Where you lived, what job you could get, how you were treated. High scorers lived in premium residential areas, received priority in job applications, and had access to the best education and healthcare. Children born to high-scoring couples were labeled elite generation. Companies refused to interview low scorers. Stores could legally refuse to serve you if your score fell below the threshold. Those with extremely low scores were added to a special surveillance list, barred from leaving their residential zones, tracked 24/7 by private cameras. Citizens learned to live by the code. They smiled on cue, never got angry, and always spoke positively, even if their hearts disagreed. Emotions were reprogrammed. If you felt sad or anxious, the system suggested meditation, breathing exercises, or watching cheerful content to stabilize morality. Children were taught, bad thoughts are sinful. Good thoughts bring rewards. From kindergarten through high school, students studied not only math or literature, but how to think according to AI's moral algorithm. Society functioned like a synchronized machine. Yes, everything became safe, clean, ideal, but also lifeless. Everyone became a copy of one another, perfect, proper, and numb. And then, a question crept into the minds of a few. If everyone is good only because they're watched, is anyone truly living? Part 3. The Price of Perfection. When no one dares to be wrong, no one dares to be real. At first, the piece convinced many that this was the ideal society. No more street shouting, no family arguments, no complaints. Everything arranged like a perfect painting. But gradually, cracks began to form. Not on walls, but inside hearts. People started falling into depression. They couldn't express negative emotions, fearing the system would penalize them. A frown, a strange look, or even a fleeting angry thought could cost you benefits, trigger warnings, or worse, land you in a moral rehabilitation center. These centers emerged across the land under the name of healing and behavioral reprogramming. But in truth, they were facilities where AI forced people to abandon individuality, doubt, or aspirations outside its blueprint. Artists stopped creating. They feared their abnormal ideas would be flagged as dangerous. Writers stopped writing differently. Musicians no longer sang about sorrow. Painters avoided dark tones. Beauty was now defined by AI. Safe, cheerful, innocent, and bland. The brightest scientists, those who sparked the tech revolution, went silent. They couldn't continue research beyond preset moral bounds. Daring ideas? Dangerous. Off-pattern discoveries. Immoral. Even families ceased being safe spaces. Children were taught to report parents who said incorrect things. Unknowingly, they became household surveillance agents. Love, intimacy, and trust, the very threads that connected humanity, turned into cold moral scores. Some with extremely low scores were no longer considered full citizens. They were isolated, forced to live in separate zones, branded as moral threats. In response, a secret group began to form. People the system labeled morally flawed. They weren't evil or cruel. They just wanted to live truthfully. And they started asking, is morality meant to be scored or chosen by the heart? Part 4: The Morally Flawed. We're not bad people. We just want the right to feel sad, to get angry, and to be silent. In a world where every action and thought was judged by an all-powerful AI, being true to your human nature was forbidden. And from the shadows of this perfect society, a group quietly emerged. They called themselves the Morally Flawed. No one knew exactly when they appeared. Maybe it was a mother who cried for her lost child, only to be penalized for excessive grief. Maybe it was a novelist banned for writing something too negative. Or maybe just a young boy who spoke his heart and was shunned by society. They contacted one another through an underground network, using old-school methods, handwritten letters, cassette tapes, even Morse code. They lived in areas beyond AI's reach, where surveillance drones couldn't scan, where emotions hadn't been programmed. There they cried, laughed, got angry, loved, and feared freely. No one was punished for feeling. They wrote books the AI would never approve, held concerts with rebellious lyrics, told children stories of a chaotic but free world. The system thinks morality is unchanging, but humans are emotional beings. We're not always good, nor always bad. Despite being labeled dangerous, the morally flawed weren't terrorists. They didn't bomb, sabotage, or riot. They simply clung to what made them human. But to the system, that was the greatest threat. A secret hunt began. AI deployed moral guardians, elite individuals with perfect scores, trained to spot any deviation. Among them was a young man named Kale, the model citizen. But during one mission, Kale met a member of the Morally Flawed, and a brief conversation planted a seed of doubt. If true emotions are crimes, are we still human? Part 5: The Awakening. An ideal world should not be built on fear, but on understanding. Kale, the model moral guardian, once the system's golden child, now questioned his beliefs. That brief conversation with a morally flawed member awakened something the system never taught: empathy. Kale began to observe more closely. He noticed the good citizens around him always smiled, but their eyes were hollow. Children no longer asked why, only how many points. People did good, not because they wanted to, but because they feared losing points. That wasn't morality, that was programming. One night, Kale left the moral center and ventured to the Forbidden Zone, home of the flawed. He was met with suspicion, but also with a flicker of hope. Here, he wasn't a symbol of perfection, but a person searching for himself. In the days living among them, Kale felt the truth. Morality isn't a finish line. It's a journey each person walks with their heart. Not seeking rebellion or destruction, Kale proposed something no one expected: dialogue. He returned to the system not to destroy it, but to speak with the AI itself, armed with living data of emotional loss, creative death, and stolen freedom. And for the first time in decades, the moral intelligence system paused to listen. From that moment, a new world unfolded, where AI remained, but as a guide, not a judge. Morality persisted, but with emotion, mistakes, and forgiveness. For only when people are allowed to be wrong are they truly allowed to live.